Another week, guys, and another TWAB. Let's talk about everything that's happening today because we have some sandbox changes that are coming. So let's get started. Starting in Season 5, you should see significant improvements, though, in our loading activities and traveling throughout destinations. This seems to be something more targeted at people on consoles. I will say yes, it is slow. The whole user interface, even though it's really nice, I love it, takes forever for console to load it at times. The three areas that they're going to be targeting is starting up the game, signing on, and selecting your character. Of course, that needs to be sped up. Loading into activities and traveling throughout destinations. Loading the player's inventory screen and switching between UI tabs. So be looking out for that to be better optimized in Season 5. Moving on to Sandbox, boys. We are finally getting our Spectral Blade buff. Thank God, right? It's getting an increase in melee lunge range. It's also going to reduce the cost of the light melee attacks. So those are just your basic melee attacks while you're in your super. We're also going to get increased number of consecutive hits required to speed up the attack rate. They're also decreasing base attack speed to improve hit registration on intended targets. So from what I'm getting from this, you're not going to go in there and just spam it like Blade Dancer. I'm kind of under the impression they're meaning for this super to be calculated melees. The devs themselves said that they did not intend this as a nerf. The goal here is to increase the intentionality of the attack rate increase so that it is most often happening when players are focusing on a single target. They're also retuning the melee targeting to have greater emphasis on player input, as in wherever your stick input is directed toward or which target your camera is facing. Again, the developer insight on this one is the goal here is to reduce the likelihood of melee targeting picking enemies that you don't want to hit. Honestly, it just sounds like Blade Dancer, just not as spammy. But even toward the end of year 3, most good Blade Dancers didn't use Blade as a spammy super. Like that was like in the beginning of D1 where people would just like sit there and spam out on their melee button. Like the only way to really make Blade Dancer viable at the end of year 3 was to be very intentional with your melee swings. So yeah, this all sounds really good, but let me be real, boys. I don't know. It could be great. It could be terrible though too. I'm assuming they wouldn't be pushing it out though, unless it was a vast improvement from what it originally is now. And yes, it's not in a good position, but believe it or not, at the end of the day, the thing that holds this super back is the ability to not be able to close the gap effectively. That's really what it comes down to. If you look back at Blade Dancer in D1, pairing Blink with Blade Dancer was almost essential to make that a good super, just simply because you have something there to help you close the gap. They did go on to mention that they're increasing the viability of stealth mechanics, added a small amount of damage resistance to the stealth state, further decreased to super drain when in stealth state. Now, I don't believe this is tied to invisibility in any way. I think stealth state is simply when you hit R2 or when you pop your super and you're initially invisible. The goal here is to take advantage more in this stealth state. So where I just commented and said that it's going to be an issue because you still can't effectively close the gap, if stealth state drastically keeps that super drain from decreasing, then this can be very effective. And on top of having damage resistance already from being in your super, you're now going to have a small bump in damage resistance by being in stealth, which needed to happen. There's a lot of other supers that you can kind of keep your range and distance on, but this super, you are very much in people's faces. I know I'm sounding like I'm pro hunter right now. Listen, guys, that's how bad this super is to me. That's how terrible it is to me here, especially on consoles. Wonderful neutral game, arguably the worst super in the game though. Moving on, guys, we have Chaos Reach. Now, they stated that they were going to tune it up. They're stating it again now. We're tuning the energy cost of deactivating Chaos Reach early. The intent of this tuning pass is to make it more rewarding to skillfully time your early deactivation when using this super. Essentially, it will be more punishing to deactivate the Chaos Reach super extremely early, but less punishing when deactivating later in the super. Obviously, the goal here, what they were concerned about, I think what we all were concerned about, was the people that were willing to go into like round after round in something like competitive, open up, get a kill or two with Chaos Reach, cut the super off, still have 80% of their super left, boom, gonna recharge it for the rest of the round, have it ready for the next one. So by Bungie pushing for early deactivation being more punishing, this would avoid that scenario, but still make it viable. Because I mean, when you think about it, especially if you got something like Geomax and you're putting a lot of damage into an enemy, say you finish them off and you're finishing off the next set of enemies, but you want to make sure you have your super up for whatever boss, deactivating it, keeping yourself around 30-40%, that's still very nice. I mean, it's essentially like Shards of Galanor. Now, to finish up the TWAB, guys, we have a Gambit free trial and double infamy weekend this weekend. Actually starting tomorrow through the 11th. And so, yeah, if you are needing to get some Gambit in, and I would highly suggest doing it this week because it is a curse week. So if anybody out there is looking for malfeasance, Meatball is spawning. I'm actually going to probably be streaming some Gambit this weekend. We're going to rock up in there with 3 Chaos Reach Geomag Warlocks and 1 Melting Point Sunbreaker. Instant melt. Now, next Tuesday, we have Iron Banner returning, and yeah, I think it's going to be the last one for Season 4. Yes, this is the final chance to earn Season 4 Iron Banner armor and Iron Banner triumphs. So if you have not gotten those things, next week is the final one for this season. Now, if you're only concerned about weapons, those will continue to be available even in next season. So I wouldn't stress about that. This is just purely for armor and triumphs. Now, last but not least, Luna's Howl and Not Forgotten. Those quests are available year-round. But understand, guys, at the end of the season, all Crucible ranks will be reset. That means if you are on the edge of Fable and Legend and you don't get that final push to get to that rank, all of your hard work would be for nothing upon entering the next season. So November 27th is the last date to get all of these things done. All right, boys and girls, that is your TWAB for this week. Some other small details, again, in the description below will be the link to it. Feel free to check it out yourself. Guys, let me know down below, though, how you feel about this buff to Spectral Blades. Do you think it's good enough? Or should Spectral Blades get blink? Like, what if they added that? I'm just saying. I'm a Titan. I'm main Titan. I'm just saying I wouldn't mind seeing a Spectral Blade blink around. Can you imagine an invisible blinking Spectral Blade? Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.